Harmonizing tracks. Let's talk music.
Hello, it's Robbie. How you doing? I hope you're doing well out there. So thanks for joining me on this one. I've just watched a little film, and like before the new year and before Christmas, I'm going to jump on every now and again. I'm going to talk about films and things and music and stuff that I've seen and interacted with and looked at, and this is no exception. This was absolutely fantastic. We'll get into that in a minute. So we're going to ask Yacht Rock, what's so bad? First of all, I say thank you for joining me today. The plan was I was going to do some stuff over Christmas. I was going to do stuff New Year's and bits and bobs like that. And I just got ill, like most of the world did. I got really, really ill, and I couldn't do anything till today. And I've still got a cough, and I've still got like a bunged up nose and all the business. But I thought I just want to get on and start tearing into the new year and just getting on with it. So over Christmas, I was, like I said, I was ill, so I wasn't doing much, and I was just watching a lot of telly, and I downloaded a lot of documentaries and bits and bobs like that. And I found this fantastic one on Yacht Rock. Just there as the picture you can tell you. I've got this right, I've got to learn this as well. Yacht Rock is absolutely fantastic. Now, what is Yacht Rock, you might ask yourself? Well, Yacht Rock is music that rocks, but just not that much, not that hard. It just rocks enough to get on the radio, but not enough that you can call it heavy metal. It's a main period between 1975, should we say, to about 1984, and that was the golden peak of it. And we're going to go through a little bit about what it is and some of the songs that were out as well. Now, you've heard Yacht Rock. Even if you don't know you've heard Yacht Rock, you've heard it absolutely everywhere. And we're going to look at the term Yacht Rock as well, and why is it important, is it not important as well. Now, if you watch an Avengers movie, you've heard Yacht Rock all over the place as well. Yeah, Mr. Blue Sky, you could consider that Yacht Rock if you want as well. So, anyway, let's get into it. So, Yacht Rock, what is it? So, it turns out, I watched this documentary, and I didn't know this, but there was some guys, and they were really poor, and they were living in a flat in LA, and they were going to the charity shop and buying these records, and then they were getting them together and just playing them and going, you know what, we really like this music. So they couldn't buy the latest stuff, so they're buying the stuff that was out for absolutely years. And it turns out they really like the music. They're really into it. They thought it was great and brilliant and stuff like that. So they sort of started to read the labels like you do when you've got a vinyl, which is, you know, yay big. You start reading the back and you find out about the artists on it and who played on it. And they noticed there was a correlation between, there was a lot of the same musicians on all these tracks. So it gave itself a sound. Now, one of the main three were the Porcaro brothers. Jeff Porcaro is probably one of the greatest drummers that has ever lived. You know, there's John Bonham, and then there's Jeff, and there's Neil Peart and all the other drummers. He's right up there at the top. He's a fantastic musician. And he played on Rosanna. Africa is the big one as well. And so these guys were just playing absolutely everywhere and loving what they're doing, and they were just studio hopping and things like that. And it just became really, really great for them because they were working a lot on different tracks, doing new things, and it was really experimental, and they were just trying what they wanted, and this is how you got this Yacht Rock sound. Anyway, so these guys are getting together, and they're listening to the Yacht Rock, and they're listening to it and thinking it's great and stuff like that. And then what they do is they decide to do a comedy sketch. So when YouTube comes around, YouTube's in its like infancy, they start making shorts and put them on the web and on YouTube and places like that, and it kind of picks up. And they decided that the music was so rich and powerful that you had to own a yacht to listen to it. This is where the term Yacht Rock came from. So they do funny skits where there's like Michael McDonald recording some music, and he goes, "This is how it goes," and he's like really angry because Michael McDonald realizes he's a really chilled guy. And and it became a thing, and then the New York Times picked it up, and then it became a term for Yacht Rock. Now, the comedy sketches are brilliant. They're online. I'll try and find some links and put some links in the description so you can watch them as well, because they just homage that period in such a lovely way. They just generally love the music. They're not being insulting. They love the music. That's why they talk about it. And that's what's fantastic about it. It's done with real, real love as well. Now, the term Yacht Rock is really interesting because it's one of those things where the musicians don't like it, but as a subgenre and a category, it makes sense to call it that, because then you know exactly what you're getting on the tin. Like if you say the new wave of British heavy metal, you're thinking Judas Priest, you're thinking Iron Maiden, Saxon, Nazareth, all those bands. You got that sort of lot. You get it. So Yacht Rock really sums this lot up into one little package, whether they like it or not. The musicians are just writing songs, and then they're putting them out and just enjoying what they're doing. So they were a little bit funny about it, and there's a brilliant bit right at the end of the documentary. I'm not going to tell you about because I don't want to give it away, but if you do see it, it's absolutely brilliant. But anyway, so yeah, they're really funny about it because they're like, we're musicians making great music, which they are. The music's fantastic. You can't deny a song like Africa and Rosanna isn't a brilliant song, but to put them under Yacht Rock, it seems like it's an insult, which is a real shame because they're just summing up the genre. That's all they're doing, is summing up the genre. Anyway, so the documentary goes through a lot of this sort of stuff, and it talks about the correlation between the two parts and what's going on. When you distill it down, at the start of it, they basically put it down to this one band starting most of it. Steely Dan, this is a fantastic album, can't buy it for. This is one of my favourite bands of all time. You know, they're up there with the Beatles as far as I'm concerned. And what it is, it's rock jazz is what it is, and it's jazz chords in a pop flavour as well. So they mix everything. They use lyrics that are just insanely good, and you know, try and understand some of the lyrics as well is just mind-blowing. They're amazing. So they decided that Steely Dan is the starting point, because everyone that played on these sessions, because Steely Dan, what they would do is they didn't have a band. They would just get people to come in and play, and you know, then they'd just go, right, that's that lot of band, we'll get rid of that. And so they do a track and they go, okay, we've done this track, doesn't work, get rid of that band, get me another band in. And they would just keep swapping the musicians around. Eventually the musicians that are really comfortable with each other slotted together and found each other, and this is what Steely Dan is called the start of it for, because they use so many session musicians on different things. There was Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, they're the main two, and the songwriters and that, and they're geniuses. And then everyone else was a session musician after their first band, and they came in. And this is why you had this movement, and you had a lot of musicians moving around and playing on different things, and bits and bobs like that. So Michael McDonald turns up as well, because the Doobie Brothers get mentioned in it. Now, Doobie Brothers are a fantastic band. Like, you know, they were like a southern rock band, I suppose. Would you say southern rock? I guess I'd say southern rock. And he's one of the voices that pins Yacht Rock down. Now, if you look at the cover photo there, that's Michael McDonald. I keep getting that wrong. That's Michael McDonald, and you have to have him in there because he's on everything. Now, when you listen to Steely Dan and you listen to Christopher Cross and you listen to a lot of these tracks, Michael McDonald's voice is in the background somewhere, harmonizing or doing a lead part. And they will call Michael and just, you know, say, can you come in and do it? And you're like, yeah, sure, because he just loves singing and writing music, and he's fantastic. And, you know, you've got the Doobie Brothers starting out as a rock band, then they converse into this sort of soft rock band, which is where Michael comes in. And it's more piano-based than guitar-based, to be fair, I think. Because Tom Johnson, the original guitar player on there, was a rock player, and it became soft. Eventually, they merged it together, and it became this fantastic soft rock band at the same time. I saw them 10 years ago, funnily enough. I think it was 10, 15 years ago at the Hammersmith Apollo in London, and it was just to hear those harmonies and see them play was just absolutely breathtaking. It's fantastic. But Michael McDonald is the link between this whole thing. So they've got Steely Dan, and I think McDonald, let's call him Mac. Mac is the other thread all the way through it, because his voice is absolutely aware, and he's that, you know, that blue-eyed soul boy, and his voice is just so powerful when it cuts through. And they sort of say, you know, it's all fine until Michael sings, and you're like, what is this? It's amazing. Obviously, they were playing on different tracks. You got lots of like easy listening music, if you want to call it that, which it's not. It's really just a sophisticated rock. And eventually, you get to this amazing artist, Christopher Cross, and he turns up in it as well. Now, what's fantastic about Christopher Cross in this documentary is how honest he is about his career. I've got to be careful, because if I say something, I might get banned. But let's just say he was selling and providing substances for people that needed it, and he was doing that to fund his career. So he was doing that, making money, putting it into to buy new guitars and studio time and stuff like that, and he came up with this amazing album. Now, you must have heard Ride Like the Wind and Sailing, which is off of this album. And he's this new guy. He turns up and he says, I've got this song, I'd love Michael McDonald to sing on it, so I love on it. And they phone Michael, he turns up, walks in, no airs and graces, just goes, okay, sings on this track, and then just leaves. He wasn't funny about it at all. He's like, yeah, I'll sing on it for you. I thought, what a nice guy that is. How can, you know, what an absolutely genuine fella is. He turns up, just sings it on this track, and then he just disappears. This album then went on to win 4 Grammys that year. I think it's 1980. Yes, 1980. He won 4 Grammys. So he got Best Newcomer, Best New Album, Best Single, and he really, really likes Barbra Streisand. So he said, and she was there because her album was being nominated. He said, I'd love to speak to Barbara. And they said, not today. Because he basically beat them all and they didn't like it. They weren't going to like it. So they said, no, not today. Don't talk to him today. And also he's talking about Sailing on this. And he says he took a certain hallucinogenic and then he went driving. And it was when he did that he sort of wrote the words. So what's interesting now is you've got a resurgence of people asking about the lyrics. So on the forums, there's a Yacht Rock forum, and you can see people are saying, well, what are the lyrics about now? For the last 40 years I interpreted it as this, so is it about this or is it about this now? And there's this really strange correlation that's going on now where people are just arguing about what it is and which lyric is right. But it's subjective. You just do what you want to do, really. It doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah, it's interesting that they're sort of talking about it. And some of the players on this are amazing. You've got Don Henley on here from the Eagles on there as well. Michael McDonald, obviously, as I mentioned, is on here as well. and Larry Carlton, who played with Steely Dan. So like I was saying, you get this cross-mogenation of all these players and these bands, and it's just absolutely amazing. Eventually, we get around to Toto, because Toto, like I said, like Steve Lukather and the guys were the main backing musicians for a lot of these albums, or the session players. And then you get this one, Toto 4. So I think it's 4, isn't it? Yeah. So what happened was, they said they had 2 albums out, they weren't doing great, and then they basically had one more shot, and they come out with this album. And then when this album came out, it was just amazing. It's got Rosanna on it. Africa's right at the back. It's the last track on the album. And I think it's Steve Porcaro says, who would do that? Who would put this track and stick it right at the back? And it's interesting, they're talking about Africa, with their biggest hit of all time and one of the biggest songs of all time. And he says, why would we bury it on the back? And it's because they didn't really believe in it, And Steve Lukather says, if he gets to number 1, I'll strip naked and run down, like down in LA, I think it was, or New York, one of the two, one of the big streets. He'll run down there naked if he gets to number 1. And of course, it got there, but I don't think he did it. Sorry, excuse me. So it's a really cool thing, and there's lots of sort of things going on there. Hello, thank you for following me on Twitch. I'm new to Twitch, so I really appreciate you joining me on this one, so thank you very much. I'm streaming new places and I'm finding out as I go, so thank you for joining me. Anyway, so after that, Toto were talking about writing songs, and Steve Porcaro said, I had this demo for us, it didn't really work, and we couldn't get it to flow very well, so what we'll do is we'll move it over. And he wrote an amazing song called Human Nature, which of course appears on this amazing album. And they play the demo form of the track, and you can hear it's basically exactly the same. It's exactly the same. And they've just changed the lyrics with more harmonies and stuff like that. But the demo to this version on the album is pretty much exactly the same. And it's mind-blowing that it's that similar. And they got it, like Michael didn't change anything on it really. He just basically said, okay, I really like that track, I'll take it. I'm just going to change it a little bit, and then that's all I'm going to do. And it's just testament to their songwriting. Like they say, they were writing so many songs, and they were constantly in the studio, and they were, doing their bits and bobs. And that's why they wrote such good songs, because they were just, like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours theory. You got to just keep going and going and going. Then you write these amazing songs, and that's exactly what they did. They wrote these such amazing songs. To give you a flavour of these songs, I'm going to put a playlist from Spotify called Yacht Rock in the description. So if you fancy just a really cool afternoon, or you're in the bath, or you just, driving to work, whatever you want to do, you want to listen to these songs, you'll get exactly what I'm talking about. They all have a certain sound. They rock, but not that hard, just enough, but not too much. And they just sound absolutely fantastic. They're fantastic songs. On the back of this as well, I noticed the other day, let's go to the web, that the Doobie Brothers have now announced a new album. And it's going to be their first one since 1980, featuring Michael McDonald. Let me just get this going. There we go. So yeah, it's called Walk This Road. So that's their new album that's going to be coming out. Super excited about that. And, it's going to be interesting because, like I says, they've been together 56 years, 55 years since their first album. And they've had many incarnations. They lost a few members along the way because obviously they're all 70, 80 plus now. But it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with now. Are they going to be writing as older men, looking back on their career? Are they going to be writing as, just new sort of, what's the word? Like, with fresh eyes still, like, life's still forward even though we're 70 and 80, or are they going to be harking back and looking at it that way? Be interesting to see what they come out with as well. There was a bit where, concerning the Doobies, where they were writing What a Fool Believes, I think it was, or Minute by Minute, and Kenny Loggins wanted to write with Michael McDonald. And he went to his house and he was just jamming these chords and these keys at the start. And what it was, he sort of said, it's just happened to be that the cleaner was cleaning, so he was just doing his thing. And if he was playing anything else, he wouldn't have wrote that amazing song. It's just a brilliant thing to watch. It's a fantastic documentary. I'll put the picture back up for you. It's a fantastic documentary. It's about an hour and a half. It's about the right length. The soundtrack is amazing. To get behind the hood of some of this music as well is fantastic, because you don't really get that a lot. So it's nice to see under the hood a little bit about how these songs came around. And it's amazing how humble a lot of these artists are. They're just really humble people. They just go, I wrote a song. And they don't realise it affected people's lives and changed it in many, many ways, because they're just absolutely brilliant people. I just wanted to talk about it and about how fantastic it was, and I think you should watch it. If you're in America, it's on HBO. I think it's easy to get out there. I had to sort of find it, and I think there's a link on YouTube for it. If you actually wanted to watch it, it's on YouTube as well. yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, it's my first one of the new year. I'm using new streaming software right now as we speak, which I've never used before. So it's all brand new and tech stuff for me. If you can like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Twitch, or wherever you're watching this, that would massively help me out, because this channel's all about music and talking about music, because that's all I love doing, listening to music, as you can tell. Becker. And also, what we're going to do is on a Thursday every fortnight, me and my friend Pete Saxer, we do a show called The Flip Side of Pete and Robbie, where we play unsigned bands and artists. And you can't hear them anywhere else, unless you go and find them, obviously. But we're doing a live show where we get the artists on, we talk about them, we interview them, we play their music, and also we just talk all things music as well. So we just love doing that as well. So he's a music fan like I am, so we got together and we thought, let's have a live show where we're going to talk to artists that need a bit of exposure and just get their face and their name out there. So if you stay tuned to this, wherever you're tuning from, you're going to get some live music soon as well. Thanks for joining me again. I really appreciate it. This is my first one of the year because I've been really rough. But I'm so glad you're joining me, and I'll be back soon with some more stuff. So stay tuned, love and peace, and I'll see you soon. Ta-da!